Hi, and welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic and my extremely sore throat, as you can probably hear. Those of you who do watch a lot of these videos will know that my voice isn't normally quite at this level. I wanted to just talk about this puzzle, which is today's difficulty rated 10 puzzle on Daily Killer Sudoku. This is the greater than Killer Sudoku, but the point I'm going to be talking about actually is relevant for any Killer Sudoku. And you know, getting to this stage, it's not that easy to get to this stage, but it's not terribly difficult. And you're left with trying to figure out what the next step is. Now, I'm going to show you what the next step is, but the first thing I'd encourage you to do is just become familiar with this bottom left-hand box here. You can see I managed to work out we've got a 3-4 pair in this 7 cage and the configuration of this 14 cage. And I've got a choice as to how the remaining cages will be arranged. But I know there's going to be a 9 in one of these two cells, and I know there's going to be a 2 in one of these two cells. And the question is, what do you do next? Now, what I encourage you to do is to just study this 8th row of the grid for a moment and just interrogate that row and see if you can see how we might be able to make more progress using this row. And this is a very common technique that is required on these very hard puzzles, and essentially it's identifying that there are missing numbers from the candidates that we've got in these 5 cells, and then trying to ask yourself, well, where can those numbers go in the row or column or 3x3 block in question? Now, so clearly the only numbers that aren't mentioned in these 5 cells are the numbers 3 and 4. And you may think, well, it's quite difficult to work out whether a 3 or a 4 go in, or where they would go along these 4 cells that I've highlighted. But it is difficult, but it's not as difficult as you might think, because once you appreciate that if there is a 3 or a 4 in either of these cells, then the other cell must be a 3 or a 4. We reach a sort of binary logical condition. So either both of these cells is a 3 and a 4, or both of these cells is a 3 or a 4, or 3 and a 4. Now, once we reach that condition, it suddenly becomes doable, because, as I've also noted, is a common feature of these Daily Killer Sudoku puzzles, they're very keen on using these sort of even numbered cages. Normally it's an even numbered 2-cell cage, and obviously the number 3 cannot appear in this cage. It's an extremely useful property in this case. So we're now left with a situation where, well, if the numbers 3 and 4 appear in these 2 cells, there is only one way round it can go. It would have to be this way round. And so that would force this to be a 9 and this to be a 2. But as I mentioned earlier, we already have a 9 in this cage here. So this configuration is just does not work. So we can actually deduce that this is a 3 and a 4, which is quite a nice thing to appreciate. Especially once we appreciate that this 2 here combines now with this 4 here to mean this 6 cage can no longer be of the variety 2 and 4. If it was 2 and 4, we could no longer fill row 8, because we need to put a 2 in these 2 and a 4 in these 2. So this can't be 2 4. So now all of a sudden this has to be 1 5. And then, just as we've done with the 3 in terms of this 6 box, we can actually repeat that trick on this on this 12 cage, and we can quickly see there can't be a 6 in this 12 cage. So now, where do we place a 6 in row 8? Well, there's now only one possibility, and that's here. And all of a sudden, that really is helpful. We now effectively unwind this bottom nonet of the grid, and we can really start to make more progress. But I just thought it's worth highlighting a little bit of logic there, that might help you through one of these very, very difficult puzzles. So thanks for watching. If you enjoy the channel, please subscribe, and I promise in future videos my voice will be at a slightly more normal level. Thanks for watching.